Yeah, dear Steffi, first of all, before we start, I'd like to thank you for this very, very inspiring event. It is full of ideas with a global scope, and what is very, very hopeful, I hear the word responsibility also more and more. So what are we talking about? Try to imagine you're sitting not here, you're sitting in an international climate conference. You lonely sell, so to say, and have to negotiate the interests of your country. You're discussing since 4 days, forth and back. It's full of tension, it's full of prejudices, and it's getting boring, and you're tired, and you don't see where you want to go. And then Christiana came, and everything changed. Why will it change? When I think of strong female leaders, Christiana has to be up there with the most relevant and influential of them. We can count ourselves lucky that she decided to commit her experience and tenaciousness to one of the biggest challenges the world and the human races face today, the climate crisis. Her list of achievements was already long even before she took on the role that would be so critical for the global climate politics. She has a background in anthropology, interesting-wise, has worked in public services and ministerial roles in her native Costa Rica. She founded and ran a non-profit organization, also very valuable experience, I hope so, the Center for Sustainable Development in the Americas, and has also successfully collaborated with the private sector. Last but not least, she acted as a negotiator for Costa Rica in the UNFCCC, that means the United Nations Convention on Climate Change from 1995 till 2009. With this wealth of experience of both politics, international organizations, business and the human nature, Christiana was arguably best placed when in July 2010 she first took on the role of Executive Secretary on the UNFCCC shortly after the failed summit in Copenhagen in 2009. I think we all remember that disaster. Before her lay a huge challenge. People who worked in international climate policies at that time probably still have a lasting impression of the pressure on the Copenhagen summit to deliver the definitive international climate agreement and how its failure to do so left many exhausted and disappointed. That world leaders in the end did agree on the much-needed international treaty in Paris only 6 years later. It is no small part, it's a huge part, due to Christiana's commitment to the cause as well as her determination. She managed, in cooperation with yearly rotating presidencies, to lead the way, putting into place the crucial building blocks in the COPs in Mexico, South Africa, Qatar, in Poland, in Peru, which ultimately lead to the success in Paris in 2015. One can only imagine the organizational skills and cultural sensitivity, which is so crucial, required and achieve a consensus between representatives, you are all, try to imagine, from literally all countries on the planet with different positions, interests and backgrounds. Since the COP, President of Mexico, Patricia Espinosa, another strong female leader, one might add, eventually took over the role of UNFCCC Executive Secretary 2016, Christiana has remained a powerful advocate for climate action. She convened Mission 2020, a global initiative with the aim to peak greenhouse gas emissions by 2020. She is also Vice Chair of the Global Covenant of Mayors, Climate Leaders of the World Bank, Distinguished Fellow of the Conservation International, Board Member of Climate Works and the World Resource Institute, Member of the Rockefeller Foundation Economical Council on Planetary Health, and Member of the Leadership Council of the Global Alliance for Clean Cookstuffs, and I think there are many more. Despite her strong ties to Germany, she married a German husband many years ago, and professional, including an earlier posting to the Embassy of Costa Rica in Bonn. I fortunately, personally, so far did not have the pleasure to work with her directly, but many in the international WWF network did so and have first and foremost the lead of our international climate practice, Manuel Pulma Vidal. Manuel, who as his COP president in Lima in 2040 is a close ally and personal friend to Christiana, could unfortunately not be here today but sends his warmest congratulations. He asked me to highlight that Christiana did not only bring the power and energy to get an agreement in Paris, but personally created the atmosphere of confidence that managed to connect the dots of the so-called Warsaw-Lima-Paris agenda, a movement that brought together politics and non-state actors worldwide. Her midterm and long-term visions are exemplified in her work with Mission 2020 and her goal of a decarbonized economy by 2050, which is hopefully the goal of all of us. Her extraordinary social skills and friendliness enabled a worldwide agreement in Paris. Others who have worked closely with her praise her great presence, her iron will, and warm heart. This combination is very seldom, and how much she cares about young people and fellow female leaders. She sees the bigger picture, but also has an eye for the important details. People describe her will, power that can move mountains, but also her passion for a process that moves at glacial pace. Christiana has a foresight to think outside the climate box as she recognizes that everything is linked: development, climate, and biodiversity. In short, she's widely loved and respected for her leadership. And when I try to summarize everything I heard about you, I think there is no alternative to admire you. Thank you. Wer soll denn jetzt gestartet sein? Oder soll ich das machen? Soll ich das machen?
This is Maria.
Christiana, it's a great honor for me being the Schwiegertochter, how you say Schwiegertochter? Daughter-in-law of Aenne Burda, to give you this award, not only for your unbelievable achievements, but of course very much so because you're a role model. When it comes to international politics, there is no role model nobody that is more inspiring than you, and I do believe strongly in the importance for us and role models. So thank you very much. And this is the beautiful award, the Aenne Burda Award 2018 for you.
Thank you. It is beautiful. Beautiful and very heavy. Thank you so much. So good afternoon to all of you. Is that better? That volume? Thank you. First of all, Stefan, thank you very much for injecting energy into this afternoon, as you constantly do. And thank you very much to the entire Burda clan, as we would say in my home country, the Burda family, and to all the organizers of the DLD conference for this incredible honor. And Eberhard, I'm going to say something about Eberhard, actually. I was going to say to Eberhard, you must have a Latin American heart. Because we Latin Americans, we have many words. I thought Germans had few words, but you certainly went through the entire gamut. So thank you very much. Way too generous an introduction. So dear friends, I've only been here a few hours this afternoon, but even just in those few hours, I have really caught the excitement of this very fascinating conference because as far as I'm concerned, what we are doing here at this conference is pulling the future very quickly into the present. And it is a very exciting effort that is occurring here throughout this conference. We will be we have already, or we will be talking about disruptions in the energy sector, in the transport sector, in the built environment sector, in media and music, of course in the financial sector and in currency, cryptocurrency being the concept of the moment. We're very much beginning to question what is the new relationship between producers and consumers. We're beginning to look at the new way in which we're going to live and work in cities. We're beginning to fundamentally question what is the future relationship between humans and machines. So bottom line, we're actually facing a tectonic shift that many are beginning to identify as the fourth industrial revolution. A very exciting revolution, and one that I'm particularly excited about because I'm the daughter of a revolutionary, and I'm never concerned about admitting in public that I have a revolutionary heart, and hence all revolutions, if they're for the good of most, then are actually close to my heart. But I would say this fourth industrial revolution is actually looking at quite a few moving parts at the same time. We are dematerializing our economy. We are dematerializing our economy because we're moving from the false concept of physical scarcity to the new understanding of abundance. By dematerializing the economy, we are increasing the influence and control of individuals by moving from centralized production and consumption to decentralized production and consumption. The internet is obviously the most evident example, but look at what we're doing in energy, moving toward completely decentralized renewable energy as well. And very exciting as well, we're actually democratizing and broadening the access to the benefits of the economy because we're moving from the concept, now last century's concept, of the ownership of goods. We're moving very quickly to the understanding that we're actually moving, and the Uber conversation now was one of the best examples of that. We're moving to the shared use and benefit of services rather than the ownership of goods. So tectonic shifts occurring in our society, in our economy, all very exciting indeed. And from my perspective, this fourth industrial revolution, it couldn't have come soon enough. In fact, it comes exactly at the right time, not a single moment too soon, because it is exactly through the fourth industrial revolution that we're actually going to address climate change. And yes, my friends, I am a stubborn optimist. We are going to address climate change, no matter what other people think about it. We are going to do so. And we're doing so, as I say, frankly, just in the nick of time, because these are the first few years, and you have the honor and the privilege to be alive at the birth of the fourth industrial revolution and to begin to witness how we're beginning to understand and co-create that new economy. So we're right at the beginning of that economy. But just like these are the first few years of the fourth industrial revolution in a new economy, these are actually the last few years in which we still have time to address climate change. Let me explain why we only have a few last years to address climate change. Because, if you will, I'm going to pounce on you just three numbers: 40, 600, and 1,200. 40 gigatons is what we all, as a globe, are still emitting. 40 gigatons of CO2 we're still emitting per year into the atmosphere. We have already accumulated 1,200 gigatons, and we can only put up there into the atmosphere 600 more, not in my lifetime, not in the lifetime of the next generation, in the lifetime of human life on this planet, which we all hope is going to be a little bit more than 10, 50, or 100 years. So we have really come to the edge of what we can responsibly do with our greenhouse gas emissions, and all the science points to the fact that we have to bend the curve of emissions by 2020, that's only 2 years from now, get to the maximum point because we continue to increase, and begin to fall off with our emissions pretty quickly after that, following a similar law to what you will all be very familiar with, Moore's Law. Because as of 2020, we have to be able to double every 10 years the capacity that we have as a human race to cut down our emissions. Doubling that capacity every 10 years. So the question is, so are we on track? Why am I optimistic? Are we actually on track? Are we doing that? Well, the German language that I love has a fantastic word that I wish existed in every other language of the world, but it doesn't, which is the word Jein, which means yes and no at the same time. Now, we Latin Americans, we always say yes and no at the same time to every question, except we have to use 2 words. Now, German has that one word, fantastic word, Jein. So are we on track? The answer to that is Jein. We're not on track because all of you have seen in the news or have witnessed personally the floods, the droughts, the storms, the heat waves, everything that we have been hit with just last year. You all just heard, I hope, that 2017 has been the hottest year on record without El Niño effect, on record, as long as we have been able to record temperature. And many of us are going from here up the mountain to the WEF forum in Davos. This is the second year in a row that the WEF survey puts climate change right at the top of the things to worry about with respect to the stability of the world economy. So we're not doing great. Now, I'm an optimist, so I also want to see, what are we doing right? Well, we actually are walking in the right direction, except we're not getting there fast enough. But what are the steps that we're doing in the right direction? Actually, the decarbonization shift has already started. Renewable energy has dropped in price way beyond any expectation. It has disseminated across the world way beyond any expectation. It is already cost competitive with fossil fuels in many jurisdictions, and the latest predictions say that by 2020, 2 years from now, it will be consistently competitive with fossil fuels across the world. The investment in clean energy has jumped 40% in 2017, and what we thought was going to be a track record for the emission of green bonds, getting from 8, where we were just a few years ago, 8 billion in green bonds, we thought if we really push it, we will get to $100 billion emitted in green bonds in 2017. Where did we go? Not 100. 155 billion. So you can see the exponential nature that this industrial revolution is taking us forward, and that is actually a good thing because we're running out of time. Now, I would like to say, and I just heard Steffi say to the press, or was it to the press, that over the past few years there has been a pessimism that has been covering the technology sector. Well, I invite you all to defy that pessimism. Completely defy that pessimism. I am fundamentally optimistic about the capacity of the technology sector to be the motor of the fourth industrial revolution and to address climate change. And I say that for 4 reasons. First, because technology, in case you haven't noticed, is solutions-based. Technology is always invented, created, and moved forward to solve a problem, to get farther than where we were, to be able to conquer a boundary that we had in our head, but that we know that we can actually conquer. And in particular, this solution-based attitude that we have in the technology sector is actually helping both on the production side and on the consumption side, both industry and consumers, which is exactly what we need to do in order to increase the speed of change. Second reason why I'm very optimistic about technology helping us to solve climate change is because technology permeates across sectoral boundaries. The technology that is developed for aeronautical and space transportation is then very quickly used in many other types of transportation down here on Earth. And you can look at how many examples of a technology that was developed for one sector actually very, very quickly crosses the boundaries and helps the other sector, getting us to a synergistic knock-on effect that is actually helping us to decouple economic growth from emissions growth, which is exactly what we need to do. We need to continue the economic growth, but bring down greenhouse gas emissions, and that decoupling is one that we're actually already seeing in quite a few countries, in particular in Europe. The third reason why I am very optimistic about technology is because technology, in particular technology now, is exponential by nature. Moore's law, as I've said, is one that is very well understood and evidenced by the growth of technology. And it is not about linear thinking. It is about exponential possibilities being brought forward, and that is what is actually going to help us to solve the urgency of climate change. And finally, my fourth reason why I am optimistic is because of the opportunities that are actually being opened for the technology sector in addressing the challenges of climate change. Just to give you one example, Accenture, who is a partner here in this conference, has actually estimated that there are $4.5 trillion to be made by companies that understand that we are no longer in a linear world, that we're moving toward the circular economy, that we're moving toward the fourth industrial revolution, that this is all about resource efficiency. And this is not about losing profit. This is about increasing profit, losing emissions, but increasing profit and increasing growth. And the gift from that revolution is that we will actually be able to bring our economy back into planetary boundaries that we have actually already exceeded, but we will come back. So my dear friends, this afternoon we're actually honoring Aenne Burda. And thank you once again to the Burda family. This is one example of the empire that she envisioned and that she built, that is today present in 89 countries in 16 languages. Did I get my data correct? As you know, she totally is the most recognized female symbol of what we still today call the German economic miracle. The German economic miracle. Well, my friends, today's challenge is no less than when she led the German economic miracle. Today's challenge is for another economic miracle, today way beyond the boundaries of Germany and Europe. Today, the boundary is the planet. Nonetheless, we stand before the need for an economic miracle. So who's going to take the leadership on that? Guess what? You are. Because it is the technology sector that is going to be the most critical component of addressing climate change, based both on the urgent necessity that we have to solve climate, but also on the magnificent opportunity for the technology sector. So technology, my friends, is at the heart of the present, certainly at the heart of the future. You, as the representatives of this sector, are those leaders who not only can, but must put your minds to the task and the new economic miracle that we have in front of us, so that we can very soon say we have followed in her footsteps and we have actually been able to bring about the transformation that we needed in a timely fashion. So thank you very much for everything that you have done up until now. Let me promise you that it is nothing compared to what expects you, that we all need to double up and triple up our efforts, but that we have in front of us the amazing historical opportunity to address climate change for future generations and do it today. Thanks.